Good evening, or when you see this, good morning or good afternoon. Grown Black folks talk, grown conversation about wrong is just wrong, y'all. I'm still not going to discuss Will and Chris directly. They're content creator that I respect to do the job, did it very well. I'm a moderator on the Themis and Thought Show. Shout out to subscribers that came from there. Thank you very much. I'm aware I may lose a few of you today, but see yourselves out if you do not understand what I'm about to say. Wrong is just wrong. I recognize, one of the people who came up today said that, perhaps I'm a violent person. She had a recognition about herself while talking with Themis. And it reminded me of something Juanita Bynum had said about sometimes I just feel violent. All these Black women started cheering her. And I'm looking at all these people that just are team Will. I could understand if people were saying he did the wrong thing for the right reason. Well, we've got people out here talking about the fact that he did violence because Chris said a word that offended his wife, that this is what we should support and big up as Black women for men. No, wrong is just wrong, because there are these things called basic human rights. And I recognize as a community, we have been greatly desensitized in the same way that soldiers, in order to be able to kill, to take other human life every day in a war, you have to lose that sense of the taboo of the sacredness of other human life, because you got to put some higher purpose, which is the love of your nation, above that, to the point that you can break that taboo. You have to be desensitized to do that. And it makes life hard for soldiers when they come back to peacetime, because the way they know how to handle conflict does not work in peacetime. Well, as African Americans, we have a history where we were held in the cruel bondage of unjust people who wanted to play God on earth, to the point that you could not look on their face and live. You could not participate in any expression that displeased them and live. So if you only got beaten, if you only got sexually assaulted, if you only got physically assaulted, you counted yourself fortunate that you lived another day. And because violence was such an inherent part of that system, we also, even when slavery ended, passed on this idea that controlling other people's behavior through intense violence. Men controlled women and women controlled children and attempted to control each other with intense violence. This is why it is very hard to get people to take violence against women and children in the Black community. People cover for it because we have been desensitized to it from the beginning. I get it. But see, if we are going to say that we want the basic human rights to be able to talk about who we need to talk about and not be subject to physical reprisal for speaking about our history, if we're saying that no one has the right to be gods over us to determine whether or not we can be subject to physical reprisal if we tell the truth, or if we make comedy, if we make remarks about things, because it is a basic human right, then we must learn to treat each other the same way. Specifically for Black women, if we want to be very vocal about the violence of Black men, and Black women are being dismissed from the planet every 5.5 hours. So we want to talk about Black men and their violence and tell our brothers, you need to deal with your brothers about how violent you are toward Black women. It is logically inconsistent for us to then go and big up and say, but we kind of will let you slide on your violence against men if we're offended by what they have to say. That's logically, morally, and spiritually inconsistent, because either human beings have the freedom of expression and the right to do this without bodily privilege, or they do not. Life or death. I can get my finger to show up. That's how serious this question is. You don't encourage men in a community where they are killing each other once every 57.5 minutes. Those same FBI stats that said that Black women are being dismissed from the planet every 5.5 hours or 4 times a day says that Black men are leaving it 25 times a day, more than once per hour. I'm not going to do the math with you live, but we know it's more than one every 24 hours. You got to take 2.5 hours, 2.5 minutes out of every hour to account for that 25th killing. So every 57.5 minutes, 57 and a half, a Black man kills another Black man. Therefore, we should not be encouraging Black men in the idea. If we do not want to encourage them in the idea that if they feel disrespected, they should put hands on us, we should not be encouraging them to put hands on each other if one of us is disrespected. Because here's something that you must learn. If you encourage men to practice violence, you will be the victim. In the show, a man had the audacity to come up in there and say, well, yeah, we can slap people. Don't be surprised if I slap my wife. If you encourage men to practice violence, and all this stuff about it was just a little slap. Either you have the right to speak and not be assaulted in any way, or you do not. If you open the door, can I pinch you? Can I pull your hair? And the other thing about this is so juvenile. You know, you have an 8-figure man and a 9-figure man playing the dozens and brawling. You know, in a stylized way, but still, it shows immaturity. There are ways to handle things. This is the other thing. As a woman, for those of you who want to be hypergamous, you know, the men that you want to get with that have power in the world looked at that as just, you know, Black men doing battle royale. If you don't understand what battle royale was, go look it up. You know, men who have operate with the class understandings at the level of cash that they're used to having it, that Chris Rock and Will Smith have. Chris Rock's 8-figure man, Will Smith's a 9-figure man. There are a lot of other ways you can handle things as a mature man, particularly with resources. And if women are encouraging men to that it's okay to go to physical, then that just tells any man who operates at that level, the targets of hypergamy, know, you do not have this understanding to fit into that culture. At this moment in history, you know why World War III is not happening? You know, an old man on the western side of Ukraine is telling an old man on the eastern side of Ukraine, I will not send troops anywhere into Ukraine or Russia. I don't have to. I will call my friends in Europe and I will call my friends in multinational corporations, and you will wake up on a morning real soon and your people will have Visa and MasterCards that do not work when they go to the bank. And when they go into the bank, every $10,000 they have will be worth 100. And that's a lot of rubles. The ruble is worth less than, the Russian ruble is worth less than 1 cent today. So even if you could get it out of the bank. And see, April 1st is coming. You talk about April Fool's Day, because folks need to be paid. They need to pay their heating bills. Heating will, Russia will have winter until at least mid-May. It's like the northern United States or Canada. Winter's not over. So when those heating bills have to be paid and soldiers up to the generals can't feed their families because the money isn't worth anything and they can't get to it anyway. When your technology starts to shut down because Apple and other companies have also pulled out, April 1st, Russia economically is being destroyed. And no one has fired a shot because men that operate on that 8-figure, 9-figure, and above level type money, they don't need to come put hands on you. There are people that do those things, and there are ways to deal with people that do not involve that. And when you as a woman encourage men of that in class level in behaving that way, men look at you like you don't understand the point. But before we even get there, we have to have an understanding. Wrong is wrong. If it is wrong for you to have hands put on you for something that you say, because Black men are out here, some are out here talking about, you know, Black women, if you want to live, you ought to know you need to respect a man. Well, okay, you're gonna sit up and say, those of you who are for Will Smith, and probably still gonna say, no, 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 I don't have a right to speak. You know, it isn't even always intended to be disrespectful. You mean I can't speak my mind without being in danger? Well, The same point is made. You mean tell me you want to get your man to go put his hand on some other man for speaking? If we are humans and we have basic human rights, this is a logically inconsistent position. It is morally inconsistent. It is spiritually inconsistent. Basic human rights, freedom of expression without incurring bodily harm, unless it is self-defense. That person threatening you, that's a different thing. If we do not want to be the victims of people, you want to encourage men to be controlled and not pop off toward us, it does not make sense for us to encourage them in popping off toward others. Even Will Smith knows he was wrong. He may have done the wrong thing for the right reason. We can give him that much grace. But no, violence is not the answer in a case like that, because wrong is wrong. You didn't make anybody else's human body. Because again, go back to our white slave owners. They wanted to pretend to be God and assert those rights. They didn't. We know that was wrong. You are not God either. And if you didn't make the human body, you don't get to touch it because you get mad. And you don't get to send anybody else. And you do not rightly get to encourage anyone else to make an exception to this rule. Not over something said unless it is a threat. Now, what Chris Rock said was completely out of order. Now, he started it. But the point, I'm not talking about that. We know that what he said was out of order. I'm talking about us encouraging that which is wrong. Encouraging violence because someone didn't like a joke is wrong. Encouraging people in violence is wrong. And see, the wrongness of this will have consequences, because this gives this gives credence to those black men who talk about, well, black women just want men who, who will be street fighters, who be thugs, who only know how to handle conflict on that physical level. This gives credence to black men talking about, this is why we can't protect all black women, because some of y'all want us to go get ourselves into situations, livelihood, freedom, and life at risk because someone said something to you you didn't like. You'll go whip us up and both of us will be dead. And if we're not, the police can be called and get involved and both of us are gone. And so I can't take on that burden. I can only protect the women that I know love me enough not to escalate situations. That gives credence to those kinds of laws of thinking. And actually, in encouraging violence, it encourages people to give less protection to black women, not more. Because you got to think this all the way through. Black men already know that they kill each other a whole lot. They do know this. They're not going to respect a woman that's going to encourage them to get into those situations. A good man's not going to be bothered with that. I know a lot of y'all don't want to hear that, but if you want a community that has peace, you do not encourage escalation of violence over what is said. There are other ways to handle that. For those of you who are of that mindset, if you're on Team Will, please heal. I'll put resources in the chat again. You're going to need to deal with the level of trauma. I know a lot of us have been through a lot of things and we want to be vindicated. We made Will Smith represent all the, black men standing up against all the disrespect black women endure. I've read these comments. I've seen these comments in a lot of places. Those of you who believe, you need to heal, because that had nothing to do with you and the majority of black men or black women. That has to do with Will and Jada's personal situation. And Will is probably good and tired of hearing a lot about it. But that has nothing to do with black men and black women. That has to do with the mess that Will and Jada have allowed because they brought everybody into their relationship. Their relationship is a little bit too open. And so now he's fed up with it, but that ain't got nothing to do with us. That's technically not our business. But what is our business is not encouraging evil. Wrong is just wrong. Either you believe in basic human rights, among which would be the freedom of expression without physical reprisal, or you do not. I'm not going to even talk about how a little slap can get you killed. If you don't understand how that works, then you really do not need to be encouraging anybody to do even small violence. United States done had 20 years of war. There are people that can slap you into eternity on a little slap. And some of us are veterans' daughters. Didn't have to go to war. But we gonna open this door. Wrong is just wrong, y'all. Don't come into the comments making the team will argument. I will escort you out because wrong is just wrong. Even if we agree he did it for the right reason, wrong is wrong. That is the position of this channel. We are not going to encourage behavior that violates basic human rights. Point blank, as Tony Gaskin would say, point blank, period. We're not going to do it. Anyway, I know you don't have to agree with me. People with good will disagree on this subject, but that is my position. If you want basic human rights, don't encourage other people to violate them on your behalf. That is not it. All right. Y'all have a good day. I hope I'll be back with a more pleasant subject later on. Goodbye. And if you stayed this long, thank you for listening.